Now, I don't know how many people in the chat loved, still use, or appreciated Guitar Hero when it was around. Well, if you didn't know, PDP, which is an accessory maker for PlayStation, Nintendo, and of course Xbox, just released a brand new guitar called the Riffmaster. They have it for the PS5. They have it for the Xbox. I bought the one for the Xbox. Now I have two other guitars. I have a Logitech, which is on the wall, literally on my right hand side here. It's old. I don't even know if it works, to be honest with you, because I don't have any of the discs. They're in storage. But one of the IPs, gentlemen, that came the way of the Activision Blizzard acquisition was Guitar Hero. So I want to kind of talk about this. And Silent, I'm going to go to you first. There are a lot of people that were Rock Band fans versus Guitar Hero fans. I had both. I liked Guitar Hero more, to be honest with you. We've heard Phil Spencer actually say the words Guitar Hero during the acquisition phase of Activision Blizzard and King. When he talks, sometimes people don't listen. Now, I have a screenshot of all of the games, the Guitar Hero games that were for the Xbox 360. I own every one of them. If you remember, Silent, Guitar Hero 1 was a PlayStation exclusive. And that eventually, that changed with Guitar Hero 2. That was my first experience in it. I did play it once before when it was on PlayStation. And I was like, yeah, this is cool. But when it came to Xbox, which of course is my preferred console, well, you had Guitar Hero 2, you had Guitar Hero 3, you had the greatest hits, you had Van Halen, you had Aerosmith, you had Guitar Hero Live, which was a little sus. I wasn't a big fan of that. You had Guitar Hero Metallica. I mean, yes, please. Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock, Guitar Hero 5 proper, and of course, Guitar Hero World Tour. Now, I know that licensing is probably a freaking nightmare to get these games as either backwards compatible or added to, the Xbox Game Pass. I'll say this. I don't know what the licensing, what it means to have purchased ABK and what those licenses that came along with it equal. I'm not a businessman, so I don't know. But I will tell you this right now. Why would PDP release a new guitar if there isn't something in the background happening? And I say that, and again, please, if you feel that I'm wrong, push back on it. It's perfectly okay. Let's just look at films, right? When a film is about to come out, usually a lot of spoilers happen because of the toys that they make well in advance to prepare for the release of the movie. So you'll be like, oh, this character's here. And someone on social media will be like, yep, this character's in there, even though the studio itself hasn't confirmed it. I don't necessarily know if this is a one-to-one, but why release new accessories for games? There's no games. There's no games. No one is playing any of these old games. At least I'm not, because I don't have the discs. And unfortunately, they're not backwards compatible with the Series X or S. And that sucks. I spent a lot of money. I own a lot. If I have a 360 that I could hook up and play, not a problem. Come on, everybody wants to play in a new console, whether it be a PS5, whether it be a Switch, or whether it be a Xbox. This not the biggest topic, but I think it's a fun one, and I think that's what we need in this business. Is a little bit more fun. Where do you kind of fall on the Guitar Hero situation? Because again, if Phil Spencer doesn't say it, maybe we're not even having this conversation. But he did say it. He talked about it. That tells me that they might be looking into at least as bringing these backwards compatible, and maybe they can do a blanket licensing purchase. I don't know how that works. Let's get your hot take on this, man.
Yeah. Here's the thing, right? Like I feel like those games when they came out, it was a unique time frame, it was a unique set of parameters, because you see so many games that end up getting delisted now because of this song, that song, stuff like that. Well, these games were literally all songs, right? So, like, I would imagine that it was probably a licensing nightmare, as you mentioned. It's an interesting point in time, like the idea that you had all these on a disc all at once. I'm sure licensing, like juggling all of those licenses, the expiration for those licenses, like it had to have been hellish, to be honest, for them when they were working with it. I would be curious. I mean, I wouldn't imagine. I think the biggest thing is you are going to pay a pretty penny, to get those licenses and get those games back out there for people to purchase again, and purchase the discs, the digital version, etc. This, you speak on the idea of like the positive side of it and having some fun with it. This brings me back to actually when I was still working in the video game industry, when I was working at a game store. I was there when Guitar Hero 1, 2, a handful of them ended up launching out into the market. And a lot of our time spent when there was downtime in the store was sitting there playing Guitar Hero together. We were going up against each other, facing each other, trying to get the best score, all that stuff. And it's an interesting time to think back to, is like it brings me right back when I start thinking about Guitar Hero. Like I've literally upstairs, I've got two guitars hooked up right now on my 360. I've got all the games on disc for my 360. I still jump into Guitar Hero once every couple months, because, like nostalgia pulls real hard sometimes.
Yep.
Um, I mean, hell, I'm pretty sure one of the very first things that we ended up talking about when back, shameless plug from like way back in time, back when we were doing XBL radio podcast back in the 2006 ish.
Wow.
We were talking about Guitar Hero 2 coming out. So it's interesting to go all the way into the future now, be this far out from those releases, and see that like after Rock Band dropped off, after Activision kind of fumbled it with like the Guitar Hero Live and stuff, it, it's sad to see, but it just like the whole game genre dropped off completely. Like both sides of it, like set it down, and they're like, "Nah, we're good." Rock Band still continued to release songs that you could actually download, you could purchase, you could get a bunch of that stuff. And I think they just recently stopped that just over the last few years. And then you had obviously the Xbox 360 store that just closed. So, like, you were able to go in and get some of those last grabs before not having access to them anymore forever.
Yep.
Which, that's not the fun part by any means, but playing the games and thinking about them and those experiences for sure. Phil did say, he was like, I want to dive into those different IPs and franchises and stuff, and he did specify Guitar Hero. This guitar, when you sent me the picture this morning, because this is not the first time I've seen this guitar. I want to say Miles Dompierre, actually, shout out to him. I think he posted it a few weeks ago too. And when I saw it, I was like, there's no new games to use this on. Like, what did this release for? So this is strictly for the old games, right? This is a one that you can use on those old systems, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So that was where I was getting confused, because I thought maybe I had missed something and something
Someone
got
in the chat
announced.
actually said, Silent, that there is a Fortnite
Yeah. Yeah,
mode.
they
I
have a
don't know.
version. They have a
Yeah.
version, but I don't think it works with, like, it's all controller based. It's
Yeah.
not, Um so that's kind of a bummer, because like when I saw that, I was like, wait a minute, we got a new game coming. But I would agree with you, where there's smoke, there's fire. I do also know that after trying to purchase a couple guitars over the last year or two, so I could play these games and I could have some of the different guitars. Those guitars, because they've been out of production for so long, the ones that you can get in the market are either beat to hell. Because let's be honest, if you played Guitar Hero or Rock Band long enough, those controllers were trashed. Like those buttons were not working, the strum bars weren't working, everything was rough. So, this definitely comes out as like a necessity that people playing those games in the past probably really appreciate. Like I'll appreciate that. I want to go get one, just so I have another guitar ready for when one of mine bites the dust. But I do think that there's going to be a resurgence into this genre at some point, and I hope that this is kind of a nudge, being like, hey, by the way, this is coming. This is something we're thinking of actively. We are interested in making more accessories for this. Like I want more of these games. It's been too long. I miss them.
Listen, Fuzzy Belvedere, I want to bring this back to you. Guitar Hero is it's an IP that I think will remain consistently as something incredibly special. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Rock Band, because Rock Band really did set the stage, and again, no pun intended, for drums and the bass and the guitar and the mic, and they went ham in on it. I loved my time with both. But I pulled the quote specifically. This comes the way of the Washington Post talking about older IPs, and this is again quote from Phil Spencer himself. He says, and I quote: "I was looking at the IP list. I mean, let's go, King's Quest, Guitar Hero. I should know this, but I think they even got Hexen." And this is during, obviously, he wore a Hexen shirt. Hexen's coming back at one point or another, but I don't think, Fuzzy Belvedere, the CEO of Microsoft Gaming mentions games if there isn't something that potentially is they're thinking about or is already in the works. Again, I don't know if they're going to start making guitars and drums and mics. I don't think they have to. I think they could make the game or bring back the old games, make them backwards compatible. And you have places like Logitech, you have places like PDP that are making these guitars, and they could, you can go buy your guitars the same way I did. Do you want to see Guitar Hero come back in a big way?
I wasn't as much into Guitar Hero when they first came out because I was still doing a lot of like racing sim games and NASCAR games at the time. But I would like to see it come back for the fact that there's a lot of people interested in it. There's a whole different genre, well, not really different genre of music, but there's a whole few generations of music that have occurred in between when Guitar Hero was at its prime versus now. So seeing some of that come to the platform and having it where one, like somebody made mention that with the music industry in kind of the pickle it is to some extent now, it gives a lot more artist exposure. It allows the music industry to have another revenue stream, and it gives gaming another revenue stream as well. So I think it's worthwhile for them to bring it back just on those matters. But if they whether they bring back the hardware or make new hardware, that's great. Especially if with Fortnite doing their festival thing, at least you're not buying the hardware just for one game. Now you have multiple games that you can use it for. But the other thing that I think they should take a look at, and this is something I remember in the early iPhone days, is have it where you can not only use your controller or any of these, specific like guitar or drum or any instrument type controller, but also use your phone or your tablet. Yeah, it's not going to be the most immersive experience, but I think you open it up because you want to have it where you can play anywhere, you can, use any device. Open it up where even you have a crossover between that and the MetaQuest or something along those lines. Like open it up full stop, keep it multi-plat obviously, but also allow for more range of controllers to be used, not just for accessibility purposes, but just in general because people would be willing to use or probably fall into that game a bit more if they can do it on their tablet or Beat Saber seems to be the go-to for a lot of these, VR or AR headsets. Why not have it where you can use a headset and those types of controls as well? So I'm all for them bringing it back. It'll be easy enough. Well, I won't say it's easy enough, but it'd just be a matter of getting the licensing with, certain major record labels and, having it where, yeah, once you buy it, make sure you own those songs and that part of the game. Have it where there's renewals for the agreements for the actual platform holder, the, Xbox themselves, or, if you have it where it's multi-platform on other platforms, they have the ability to renew that so you could keep it listed in the store and you don't have to delist it after a certain amount of time. But once you purchase it, it's yours to keep. You can access it at any time. And then even have like a handful of like in-house songs. Like they have some in-house songs that they use for things like Forza Motorsport, or more so for Forza Horizon, for like when you're doing streaming mode. Not the songs aren't the greatest, but they are still ones that you don't have to worry about having to delist after a 3 or 5 or 10-year deal type of thing. But definitely bring it back, just for the fact that it's kind of a missing link in the gaming space at this point in time. Beat Saber is the only real thing that you have out there that's music related and playable as a game right now, other than the original games from back in the day type of deal. Although I think Rock Band did do like a recent update or something like that, where they have, I guess, for like the PlayStation or something like that, not too long ago. But yeah, it's worthwhile for them to bring Guitar Hero back and a few of those other types of titles. There's new music to put into those games. Why not have it available and allow people to purchase it?